You're listening to Cash and Sass. I'm Lisa Marie, your go-to gal for all things money. As the Sassy Wealth Queen and the brains behind the Sassy Wealth Coach, I'm here to take you on a thrilling ride from the financial chaos to sassy and sexy money. Hey, my sassy friend. Welcome back to another episode of Cash and Sass. I'm Lisa Marie, the Sassy Wealth Queen and the brains behind the Sassy Wealth Coach and this podcast. And today my guest is Lisa Hopper, and she is the founder of the UK School of Coaching and Self-Mastery. She is an expert in helping passionate and talented coaches turn professional and elevate their influence, income, and impact. She loves to help people step into their most powerful self and is on a big mission to elevate the coaching education landscape with her original curriculum. She is trained with Coactive Training Institute, Ericsson International, and travels the world to learn from the best in the business. Lisa loves travel, writing, sport, and coffee, and is currently writing her first book, I did not know that, Your True Nature, an invitation to become more of who you are. Welcome. Thank you for being a guest on my show. And we're just going to dive in. First of all, I did not know you were writing a book. And I love what you do because you and I have a lot of the same passion with, empowering the people that we work with. And one of the questions that I'd asked on the forum, and I just thought we would dive into, is at one point you used to think that like money, it was hard to come by and it was for other people and not for you. Can you tell me like how that felt or what that looked like when that was the case?
Yeah, it definitely felt like that, but I don't think I was really aware of that when I was much younger. So looking back now, I can see how my programming led me to believe that that was the case and that that was my reality. I came from a family who we had sufficient. That's how I would describe it. It was like we didn't have a lot, but we were never without shelter. We were never without food. We were never without warmth. And so I was always really grateful, I think, and happy as a kid. But there was also this environment and this programming where I would hear, well, how the hell do they afford that? Well, if there's no price tag on it, it means you can't afford it. Well, do you think we're made of money? And so these two things really collided inside of me of like this, there was a seeing, I guess, like that you can be happy with what you have. But then there was also this curiosity around, but what does more give you? And so I started to develop this pattern where I would get to a certain stage in my career, and then I would stop and reinvent and go back to something else. So when income was concerned, it would start to go in one direction, it would start to go up, and then I'd get to a certain stage, and then I would go and completely do something different. And so I was starting out as a beginner again on a beginner's salary. And that was such a pattern. And so this feeling in me of like, well, it does seem difficult to get to because I was in this loop. And
you were in the loop of always starting over.
Yeah. And so my mentality around it was very much, I just need to know that I've got enough. And then I was grateful for whatever was left over, but it was never big amounts of money that was left over. We were talking like tens of pounds rather than hundreds or thousands. And so I think that comes from this like childhood of like gratitude for what I have, sufficiency, but never really dreaming bigger because I didn't think that it was possible for me. And that feeling of, it was like a question mark around, how do you even make it possible? Is it for other people?
Right.
Or is it for me? And a lot of thinking around, gosh, it's going to take a lot of work and it's going to be long hours and it's going to be really hard. Because that's what I saw. I had to do all of that to make more money up until a certain point, and then things started to change.
What What was the pivot for that had it change?
My entry into coaching, it really started to change everything. So I'd got a background in human resources and people development. But the first time that I hired a coach, I looked at this guy and he was incredibly successful. He was making 500K a year. He was living in a penthouse in Mayfair in London. And I was so curious around, wow, this could be a profession that I'm actually really good at. And you do this and you make a killing. Like, teach me. So it was the first time that I could really see an alignment between my skill set and what lights me up and a really strong income. And that has then been my journey from starting to work with him and then leaving the security of that job where I knew I can have my spreadsheet and I know how much is coming in every month. And I know that's going to have me have some left over to, oh gosh, like now I have to make it all myself. There's no security there. Mm-hmm. But I still had this beacon that I was seeing from this coach and from other coaches who were really successful. And if I could just do what they were doing and follow their instructions and follow their path, making it my own, I was like, this is possible. So there was something in that for me around, now I can see the way. Now I can actually believe that it is possible. And that can direct my actions. So it's still a lot of feeling, a lot of fear at the very beginning, you know, and that has definitely been a journey over 7 years now of really deepening my money mindset, my relationship with money, my relationship with self. But I would say that was the pivotal part. It was like I actually woke up to it's possible. And now I have evidence in my world where people like me can actually do really well.
Right. We don't have to come from wealth to actually create it and have it, right? It's like I don't know, it's like when you realize that you're like, oh, wow, like I can have it, right? I can create the wealth and I can have the wealth and it's not because I came from it.
Yes.
I can create it. And that's a huge.
And it wasn't at the cost of lifestyle either. Right. That was a biggie. It was like, wow, I can use a skill set that I have that I love doing and I can nurture and develop that and get even stronger at it. And I don't have to compromise on anything. You know, I don't have to go into a career that I don't enjoy just because I want the money. So I was never willing to do that. But here it's like an alignment with the skill set and the income. Yeah.
Right. And did you notice, I mean, you know, I tell my listeners and my clients all the time that the transformation with your relationship with money is not going to happen overnight. And it's, you know, I stress that is something I still work on and that is something you'll work on every day because of the fact that it's just like working out. You don't work out for a while and then stay fit forever without working out, right? And you hit it. It's more, not only are you changing the relationship with your money, but you're also changing the relationship with yourself, because I had another guest and we were discussing this was, you know, changing that relationship with self and with money was making it an intimate relationship with self and money, because in order to have a good relationship with money, it needs to be an intimate one. And you've got to change how you're looking at things of what you can do. And, you know, money is part of that, is part of that shift. And did you find that there were times to where sometimes those old scarcity would come up and, you know, you're digging into your tools to keep you going?
Yeah, absolutely. All the time. So there is a different feeling now. I would say if you had a pair of scales, it's like at the beginning, it was mainly fear-based with some hope and possibility, enough to have me stay in their lane, right? Stay in my lane, staying on the path. And it started to do this. And then, so when this happens, when the scales tip and I have this like moment of like, oh gosh, I'm so able to back myself now. There's just so much more evidence of like who I am and, you know, what I need to do. If I want to turn up the income this month, I know exactly what to do in order to generate that. And at the beginning, I didn't have that. There was more needing to trust and have faith. But now it's like, no, I have a lot more evidence. So it takes less time to tip the scales back in my favor. But for sure, there's what I found is that even though that first coach was a big investment at the time, he was $30K for the year. And I worked with him for 6 months. So that was a huge investment when given the salary that I was on as a business partner at the time. But now my investments are even bigger, and they're more frequent. And so there's always that, like, that moment of like, am I going to bet on myself? And I really caught myself. One investment that I'd made, I caught myself coming from this attitude of, well, it's just 2 clients, and then I've made the investment back. And I caught that, and I was like, why am I thinking that way? Like, I'm playing to break even. What would playing to win look like? So again, it's this relationship with self that allows me to really step into leadership in my life where money is free to come to me. Does that make sense?
It's coming from a thinking of abundance and not just the scarcity mindset of breaking even. It's because I've even caught myself doing that. Like, okay, if I invest in this, how I can make this back in some. So I'm like breaking even. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm doing that from a scarcity mindset of I'll just earn that much money back. Okay, what does it look like? How is this going to help me earn more? And if it's going to help me earn more, how can I go in and with that mindset, generating more to come out, like you said, and win, you know? And I think that's when we have to be able to, you have to come from that abundance mindset and realize that, you're not going in just to break even. You're going in to win, which means bringing in more revenue. And, we all have these ups and downs and rebirthing that Alok likes to say. And, and I've been I didn't know rebirthing existed, not as deep as I've realized it exists until recently. And, I've realized, and I've had to dig even deeper and learn even more of those, learn more tools to help with that shift, because the old stories or the old patterns sometimes want to pop back up. And one of the things that you've done recently is, and I want to talk about because I think it's awesome, is that you weren't planning on a trip. You just moved back to the UK, and this opportunity came up. And the important part of this is not the investment. That's not what I'm wanting to go after. It's how you checked in with yourself. So again, that goes to relationship with self. So how you checked in with yourself and said, is this something I really want to do? And if it comes, if there's a spot open, am I willing to take the step and do it? And I want to talk about how that is, because that's part of that mindset. That's part of, tuning in. And I want to say that if you'd have tuned in and it would have been a no, then that'd have been okay. Do you see what I'm saying? Because you tuned into yourself, and that came from a mindset of tuning into yourself, not from scarcity, but a mindset of tuning into yourself. And so when you do that, it being a no, that's okay. And it being a yes is okay. So I want to talk about how now you're doing that, because that's how we want to do decisions when it comes to money is turning into ourselves and asking ourselves those questions.
Yeah. So this trip did come up, and it's funny because I just arrived back from the UK 6 days earlier, and I had said, I'm really looking for stability. I'm looking for somewhere to call home, just to feel like back into that groundedness, because I've been traveling back and forth for 2 years now. And then 6 days later, this message comes in about a trip back to, like a big trip. And I did check in with myself, because integrity to my word is really valuable. It's really important to me. This is relationship with self stuff. If I say something and constantly break my word, then I'm telling myself that I'm out of integrity. And so for me, I always hold that quite highly as a value. And so before I made my ask of like, is there a space on this trip? Can we make this happen somehow? I knew that if that was going to come back and be a yes, I had to be willing to say yes to it. So I checked in before I even made the request.
And that's what I like about it. The fact that you checked in, don't make a request or ask before. You check in before and you're making sure, okay, I thought that I want to do this. Do I really want to do this? If it comes and says yes, is this something I truly want to do? Mm-hmm. And then if it's a yes and it's coming from that place within yourself that feels good, and it can feel a little scary, but it should be really exciting more so, then you did your job. You checked in with yourself. I tell everybody all the time, I don't say don't make investments. I say make sure you check in with yourself and make sure it's an investment that not that you feel like you need to do, but that you're checking in with yourself and that is something you want to do, and you can tell that that this is going to impact your business or impact your spiritual growth, whatever, in a good way. But checking in with yourself is just so huge.
Yeah.
And the spot you
go.
You did it. You opened up, you said yes, or you checked in with yourself and you knew you wanted to do it, and then you put the request out there and a spot came open, right?
A spot came open, yeah. So I checked in. There was a want, but there was also, it's like, I do want this, but a lot of people want things and aren't willing to do what it takes. So it's one thing saying I want something, but that check-in was really around, am I willing? That was the question. I want it and am I willing? And so when the spot came up and it was a yes, it was really fast paced. It was like, check your inbox. There's an invoice in there. Pay it. You've got a seat on the boat. And I was like, whoa. So all of this was happening quite quickly. But what I'd already done before that was, in my mind and in my body, I could see and feel the opportunities that could come from this trip. And so my mind was going into the future. It was already on board. It was already seeing myself surrounded by these incredible thought leaders, these incredible entrepreneurs, these incredible business owners. And this bigger vision, right, for the world, for the health of the planet. And I wanted to be in an environment like that. And even though I can't quite grasp exactly what tangible things are going to come as a result of it, there's just a putting myself in those environments and then allowing and opening up to receive what might come of it. And I could also feel into the opportunity to speak more on my return and the doors that it could open on the speaking circuit. So there was so much value for me in this investment. And it's not, when we talk about return on investment, when I first started out a coach, it was very money oriented. So I wanted to create impact. I always come from a heart-led place, but for my own needs, I needed to make an income, right? I literally pressed the button on my full-time job. And so it's now, okay, I'm living in London. There's rent to pay. There's all the expenses. So it was very much a focus on, this is what I need to make each month to keep myself out of going into further debt. Whereas now the return on investment, it doesn't even feel like there's always a financial focus, which is the crazy.
Yeah, the return, right. And I stress all the time that return on investment is not always money. The return on investment for you for this trip is going to be massive. And years from now, it could be more revenue. And it's also going to be opportunities because, like you're saying, it can be, you being able to speak. You're going to be around other leaders, and some of them are much bigger. And you know what I mean? So it's just, you're going to be around all of this, and you never know who you're going to get to meet. When you said what you said, I thought about it. It's like, you know what? That's what I did when I was invited. I was asked if I wanted to apply to go to Kenya to speak. And I had to check in with myself because I was like, holy crap, first thing I did is I looked and saw that it's over a 20-hour flight. It's like a 24-hour flight for me. And I'm like, okay, Lisa, is this something like, if you apply and they say, yes, they want you, are you going to, you willing, like you said, are you willing to go? Are you willing to get on the plane for 24 hours? Are you willing to do the things and go? And I did what you did, what you're talking about. I turned in and I asked myself that, like, okay, I wanted to, and was I willing? And I started thinking about how this could, the benefits, the potential. Like, for sure, neither one of us know for sure, right? However, there's the possibilities. There's many possibilities that are inlined in both of those things. And I said, yes. And to myself. And so I applied and I had to submit a video and had to submit an application. And I think within 48 hours, I found out that I was accepted, that I was one of the 6. And, at first it was like, okay, OMG. And they're like, and here's an invoice, right? Again, I'm the same way as you. It's not more so letting someone else down. It's the integrity with me. Because if you check in with yourself, and you say, yes, I'm willing, and then you don't, you're letting yourself tell you that you're not worthy of, in my opinion, telling yourself you're not worthy of making that or spending that or investing that. And you have to come from this abundance of, this is something I want to do. This is what I want to invest in. And this, I can see the possibilities of what can come from this. And I think that's huge, because sometimes, especially as we grow and what one of my coaches says, we get deeper into our business. So as we get deeper and up level, we are going to have bigger investments, and we're also going to have the universe test us even more. Yes. And we all know that. And so that's where that kind of comes in to, okay, are we going to trust ourselves, right? In that process. So I love how this came about, and how you, you checked in with yourself, because it wasn't just the cost for, the investment to get on the boat, right? You're also having to do a 20-hour flight. So you're having to do a 20-hour flight. So there's that, and you just told me you hadn't even unpacked from your trip yet. Yes. And you were going to be unpacking, and now you're having to repack. So there's a lot more into it than, just that part. When you say you're in.
Yeah. In the schedule. And, I love, part of the work that I do is on self-mastery. And it's a lot of it is looking at, like, what's the perspective that I'm standing in that's causing me suffering, or moving me away from suffering closer to peace. And so when I was thinking about the investment of my schedule, because there was some reshuffling around, I had clients that, I would need to move. And that's something that I don't do. That's another thing that I'm really, like, in integrity with my word. If we have a session, we're having the session. And it is very, very, very rare. It would be an extreme occasion where I would cancel or have to reschedule a client session. So I don't take it lightly. And, but I had so much fun with it, because I wanted to astonish my clients. So instead of seeing it as, oh gosh, this is now something that I'm going to have to do to somebody and move them, I really sat with that person and thought, like, what are they creating? What do I know about them? What would they love? What would they find valuable? So that when I could go to them and say, hey, this incredible opportunity has come up, but it does mean that I'm not going to be available for a session. And therefore, I want to offer you a couple of options. We'll need to reschedule.
I love the fact that you offered a couple of options. And I think I remember when you and I were talking, that one of them was like a VIP, like turned that one session into a VIP day, which I thought was, because VIP days are not are a lot more of an investment than a 1-hour coaching session. And you gave your client a couple of other options. And I think you said that they chose to have a session before you left and a couple of books for you to send to them for them to read.
Yeah, because I know this particular client.
How awesome is that?
Yeah, they love books. They love reading. And so, whilst I'm away here, have this. It's, I love just being in service to people. And I would say that's probably the thing, that has to be included in the recipe when we talk about money. Service has to be in there in our profession.
Oh, absolutely.
And so really putting my perspective and my focus on, oh my gosh, all of this is a great opportunity. This is so great that I get to reschedule. I get to astonish my client in this way. And it's really a different feeling and a different energy that gets brought into the space. So I'm sharing it because it's like we can so often talk ourselves out of things because we can easily find reasons why not. And our mind then loves to exaggerate the story and get into the reasons why not. And I just love that coming back to neutral and then taking another look. And I think that's really powerful when you're not wrapped up in your story and your habitual thought patterns, which create habitual solutions. And you really just allow yourself to be like, okay, let's get still and let's just be with this and see what comes through. And the most innovative ideas and most creative, most fun solutions can come to mind from that place.
Yeah, and see, and I love that. I absolutely love that because I tell people all the time, and I mean, I admit it, I'm notorious for getting in my head. And that's not so bad to get in there. It's the fact that I'm much better than I used to be. And I could literally get in there and just get inside my head and do exactly what you're talking about. It just becoming I don't know, like a fest feed of, all the reasons why I shouldn't, or can't or whatever. And the key is to being able to, like you said, take a minute, take a deep breath, step out, bring yourself back to that neutral. And what I say, when you bring yourself back to neutral, say, and why, and instead of saying why I shouldn't, why should I? And listing all these positive reasons of why you should, and reminding yourself of where you came from, right? Like how far you've come, like talking about, that you've achieved this, all the evidence. And I think that, when I go and look at the evidence of everything I've done, it reminds me, you can do that. And there are these possibilities and there is more. And I just think that, like you said, making decisions from that place and making sure we're not making it from the scarcity place or inside our head place is a big thing. And sometimes, I don't know about you, but I still find myself going in my head, and I'll have to bring myself back out to that neutral place and say, no, back out here to make the decision. Because the key is both of us, we've done so much work, we can actually see it now, right? We recognize it and we're able to do the shift. And that doesn't happen overnight. You'll start recognizing it and you can do the shifting. It doesn't happen as quickly overnight. It's just willing to be able to do the work to recognize it and bring yourself out of that. How did you start doing that? How did you start making that shift for you?
I have so many different ways of doing it. I'm like, I'm kind of greedy when it comes to practicing things. So if I hear of something, I'm like, well, let me try that. So I run a lot of experiments. But one of my first mentors said to me, the more intense the feeling that you're in, the more likely your thinking is off track. So usually what we do, it was a goodie. It's like usually what we do is we feel fear or we feel frustrated or we feel panicked or we feel something. Our body is telling us and there's a feeling. But because it's such an intense feeling, we get really interested in the thinking that's behind the feeling. And then we expand on that thinking. And before we know it, we're really engrossed in that story. And so what he was saying was, even if you can't catch the thought, even if you don't know what the belief is or the thought is to reframe or to try on a different perspective, just using that feeling as a barometer to be like, oh, pause. My thinking's off track. Don't trust myself in this moment. And so that's been a game changer for me. Just being with that, like, just using the feeling as the barometer, the feeling as the guide. It might not be so accurate. And then you get to question.
Because it's so it's so intense.
Yes.
And so you can just take a moment to pause and go, okay, is this actual, or is it intense because I'm feeding it? I
Because we
love
usually
that.
notice the feeling, right? Before anything else. We're about to launch something.
Yes.
It's like, oh, hang on. Like, maybe I just don't trust myself in this minute. So that's a good way if you can't quite get to what's causing me this grief right now. If you can't quite get to that, then you can use the feeling as an indicator. But the other thing that I love, it's so simple, it's just Post-it notes. So I'll just decorate with Post-it notes and I'll stick them on my laptop and I'll just have a constant reminder of the state of being that I want to be in. And so in my work, many years ago now, I had a client who I found, and it's nothing to do with the client, this is all just points to our own work. I love like radical ownership. So I had a client and I found that I was always trying to get them somewhere. So they would come and they would bring their problems or their challenges, and I would get really into it and I would be like determined to get them somewhere. But actually, that was taking both of us away from presence and, this slow down, this stillness internally. And so I just put a Post-it note on the laptop and it just said nowhere to get to. And so I'd have that literally right next to, so they couldn't see it. It was just sticking on my screen. When I was with them, I could just keep that going into my mind, nowhere to get to, nowhere to get to. And it was just in the moment reminder of just come back to being present. If you weren't trying to solve everything in the 60 minutes, what would the conversation look like? How much space would you give your client,
And then you actually end up providing a lot more coaching to where they're able to grow more so than always trying to get somewhere.
Yes, absolutely.
I love that.
And the other thing, I'm really interested in the more helpful viewpoint. So this was a biggie as well. We love to be right. Our egos love to be right, even if it's costing us. Even if it's keeping us in our anguish and our pain and our suffering. It's like, but we do want you to know how bad it is for me. So we'll fight for our smallness. We'll fight for our suffering. And so really like taking a stand for my greatness, my bigness, my giantness, my peace. I'm going to take a stand for that. And what does that look like? And I'll give you an example of where this changed instantly for me. And then I came in with the Post-it notes to remind me. But I years ago, I had an accountant and I'd got into a complete pickle with my bookkeeping. And they sent me an email on a Friday night to say, you owe £22,000 back to your director's loan account. And you have to pay it in 9 months. And I don't remember the interest rate. It was something like 36%. It was a big percentage.
Holy
and I was
crap.
like, I said something not quite as politically correct.
I know exactly what you said because I was just using a much better word than what I would have said.
But that email came in and it came in on a Friday. So here's my story, right? The email comes in on it's a Friday and they would have known now I'm going to be stressed all weekend. So you can hear that the story's got a grip on me. And so I was in fear and I was like, how am I going to create all of this? I don't have it to pay it back. And my coach who I was working with at the time, she just said to me, Lisa, this is your opportunity to see expansion in the face of adversity. And it just hit me. And I've never forgotten it. It was years ago and I've never forgotten it. And all she was doing really was pointing me to a choice. Because in the story, I was remembering all of those beliefs that we talked about at the beginning, right? How hard it's going to be, how much I'm going to have to, how long hours I'm going to have to work, how impossible this is going to be for someone like me. And she just pointed me to the choice. And in that moment, there was just something that shifted inside of me. And it was like a roll your sleeves up moment and just get on with it. You know how to create wealth. You've been doing it for years now. And so that's what I did.
And what was it
And so
she said to you?
she said, this is your opportunity to see expansion in the face of adversity.
Expansion.
Yeah.
I love
so
that.
when everything felt like my world was getting, contracting and getting smaller, including me, she just pointed me back into this direction. And I've had that a couple of times now with coaches. This is a pattern. I think it's just a humanness. So something occurred. I'm afraid of losing everything. And my coach said to me, when you're afraid of losing that, what would you love to keep or gain? It's the same thing. They're just pointing me into, oh, yeah, right. I have a choice.
And that's actually something a coach told me too, it was similar. And it was basically, he was saying the same thing, this is, in that face of contraction, all this contraction going on, you now have the opportunity to either accept it and just sit in it, or you got this opportunity to have an expansion in the face of it. And so I love that. And how did that help you shift that though?
So I didn't have a choice, right, to not shift in that moment. She showed me, similar to the very beginning, where it was like, wow, I just saw possibility. I saw someone who was flying the flag for this is absolutely possible and you can do this. And pointed out all of my learning to get me to this stage, all of what I'd already accomplished to get me to this stage. So she was reconnecting me back to my higher self, essentially, And so drawing that out of me was like, okay, I don't have a choice. This has to be paid. I can't just say to HMRC, well, do you not know that, I came from this family and we lived in a council estate. I don't think the tax office care about that. They just want their £22,000. So it was like, right, well, this has to be made and it's on me to make it. So let's make it. And it was messy. And there were moments where I was like, this isn't fair. And, all of that happened. It's like highs and lows and highs and lows. But you said something earlier.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Yeah, I think everyone knows it, right? You said something earlier about, I can't remember your word, whether it was like these things test us. And it's like,
the universe. The universe tests us to see how serious we are. Oh, yeah. I truly believe it.
And so this was a test. And it's because I've embraced the tests like this. Like sometimes at the time, you would rather not have the test. It feels like you would rather not have the test. But now, going through all of that has really shown me something about myself. And so I'm that could happen again. Not that I would wish for it, but that could happen again. And I would have a completely different way of being with it initially. And I can see things like this have happened, not exactly the same, but things like this have happened where, just circumstances that are out of our control. And suddenly we're like, oh, that was a big expense that I wasn't expecting. I signed up for a program I wanted to pull out. Stuff had happened and it was a 15K program. I'm not allowed to get my money back, but I'm not doing the program. So there's things like this where it's like, wow, that was a big investment that I've just thrown away. But there's a letting go of it so much more effortlessly because actually what I'm creating needs my energy. So it's that what would you love to create? I want to create this. And that is going to require me letting go of any thinking that I have about this. It's
using it as a learning experience, right? And not so much a mistake, but using it as a learning experience of what can I do differently next time, to know whether or not that's something I want to invest in. And like you said, letting it go so that you could go and create this. And I love that. What other type of I have affirmations on sticky notes too. So I love the colorful ones because they're on my mirror and sometimes they're on my wall, sometimes they're wherever. But what are some of the other ones that you use, like the phrases that you have?
You mean phrases as in how I program myself now? Oh, it changes all the time. So at the moment, I'm looking over here because I have whiteboards over here. And And I have things like kind, patience, loving. So these words. I also have like so I've got creating Bali on there because our group, we're going in for Bali in August. So I'm creating Bali. So it's like, I just have these, I think it's very unique. It needs to be unique to the individual. What really matters to you. Have it really feel yours.
Yes.
And, pinch and borrow words from other people if you haven't quite got your own language for it, for sure. But keep evolving it so that it feels really unique and precious to you. But mine changes all the time.
Yeah,
um,
mine does too. And I like the fact that you said that it changes all the time and that you have certain words right now and how to make it unique, because that's what I was wanting. Is I'm wanting, yes, you can borrow, like you can say, oh, I like the be kind and the patience. I need to remind, and then build off of that to make it for you. One of the things that I constantly had on a mirror that I would see when I got up and when I went to bed was, I am worthy. I'm worthy of making money. I'm worthy of having money. I'm worthy of creating money. That was big for me because, like you're saying, when I was growing up, that worthiness came in. Like, we were more the lower middle class, I guess that's what they call it. Call it middle class, but it was lower middle class. And, we never needed a roof over our head or warmth. We had all that. And we also didn't have all the things that all the other people had. And so it was like an unknown said thing. And it just felt like, okay, it wasn't from me. I won't be able to, because I didn't come from it. And so that was one of the big things that I had constantly everywhere. And now, like you're saying, it's now changed. And so mine's more of the abundance and going deeper. But that was one of those things that I had plastered everywhere. I mean, I wanted to see it. I had it popping up on my phone every hour, on the mirror, big, huge pink sticky note on the mirror, so I can see it. And people laugh, and it works because you're retraining your brain. You're seeing it and you're saying, and what I would do is every time I'd see it, I would say it.
There's something about speaking it out as well, that like getting your voice into the room, connecting to it. There's so much you can do on your own. I love a process called the Living Vision, which is a journal entry that I write 1 year from now. And I look back and I write it as though, I've written it from on that day. And it's like, I'm so grateful for, and this is a powerful process for me. So I have this up on my kitchen wall every morning. I connect to it with my cup of coffee and I just embody it. And so I had that when I was creating my life in Vancouver a couple of years ago. And there was a moment where I was looking at this and it was saying, I'm so grateful for my life in Vancouver. And here I am sitting in Glasgow. And I just checked in with myself. And am I being the person who's creating this life in Vancouver? Because, 6 months from now, this is what it's saying I'm going to be doing. And so it's in inviting myself into being that. And so on the phone, calling someone in Vancouver, these are the dates I'm thinking of coming, arranging accommodation, booking my flight. It's like there's a way of being that then drives you into action and it shapes your behaviors. So I don't necessarily call them affirmations. I like to call them like a declaration, because I'm really declaring this is who I am now, not who I want to be. So it's like I've written this 1 year from now, but I'm being it today. And a lot of it is, a lot of it on there is the being state. So if I know that I want to be of service, it's like, how do I want to be that allows service to express through me? So it would be, I'm so grateful that I continue to work through the illusion of my stories, through the lies of the judgments, it's like it really was a document that allowed me to embody something. It was spiritual, but it was practical. It's like, am I being this? So that's a big one for me. And that's something you can do for yourself. But other ways of really shifting here, I would say hire somebody. because you can't see your blind spots. I just going back to those 2 moments that I've talked about where it was like this big loss has just come in. It doesn't feel as easy to pick yourself up if you haven't got someone kind of stretching out a hand. And they're not stretching out a hand with compassion to feel sorry for you, to be like, oh, poor you, come on up. It's like, I've got you and let's create. So it's still a very, have your moment to be in the feeling of it. We're not saying ignore it, dismiss it, but having someone is so valuable, so powerful.
Oh, very much so. Because when I was going through mine, I have my 2 coaches, and I have, and in that moment, they did exactly what you're talking about. Have your feelings, feel it, and we're here to help you create and move forward. And I know without a doubt that, one, the work that I've done, but having my 2 coaches allowed me to learn even more new tools to help me process and move through with the rebirthing and the phoenix rising and move forward. I would still be stuck in all of that if I wouldn't have. And so, and I'm going to be the first to admit that it's not always the easiest thing to ask for help. Okay. The first to admit. And I think we're both proof that when we have coaches, one of my mentors, she said it best. She said, you're inside the pickle jar and you can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm outside the pickle jar, and so I can see all around, and therefore I can help you process through, so then you're on the other side of the pickle jar instead of inside it. It's really hard for us to see something and understand something when we're in the mess. That pickle jar. And I hate pickles, so I love the fact that she used a pickle jar, because to me, pickle jar would be a mess because I don't like pickles. So it's hard for us to see those things when we're in the thick of it, in the mess. And so that's why it's so important to have mentors and coaches, because them being on the outside of it, they're going to be able to have a different perspective and be able to see it because they're not in the thick of it. And they're going to be able to reach out a hand to you and say, let me help you move through this, feel your feelings, move through this, and let's create, so you're getting out of that pickle jar. And I just think that analogy is just something that stuck with me over the last 3 months, 4 months. And I just think it's true, right? And you are able to process and create faster, I'm sure, because you had a coach being able to remind you of what you're capable of, right? And I think that that's really important.
Yeah, and it was so much more than I've even shared as well. The story about the accountant. Now, we didn't have a great relationship. Surprise, surprise. And so I didn't take the relationship to my coach. I took the problem around this £22,000 bill. And so here's the difference between what a friend would do and what a coach would do. Because if anyone's listening and thinking, when we're talking about the extended hand, come on, we're gonna create. Like, a friend could extend a hand, cheer you on to create. But it's such a different conversation and relationship with a coach, because a friend might get into your story with you. That's unreasonable for someone to send that on a Friday. How dare they send you this bill, £22,000? Why did they not tell you before? And then I'm back in, I know, right? So now I'm back in my victimhood. Whereas what my coach actually said was, and I don't remember her exact words, but she was having me see how I was a pain in the ass client. She was having me see how there was a possibility for a relationship still to be built with this person. And it was like, what? That I was fully in the pickles. I was a pickle. There was not a chance I was seeing that. And I wasn't even asking for that. But she just saw an opportunity for me to become something even bigger than the person who can create this money. And this is like, at least you take yourself everywhere you go. So this is going to be habitual, right? This is going to be a pattern. So let's use this for this much bigger growth than you could ever, ever imagine. So we've gone from this horrific 22K bill to probably something that I will never forget as one of the most precious gifts that I could have been given.
I love that, because and that's actually something I was talking to one of my mentors about, is that there was a shift. I'm really big. I have a big heart, and I lead with my heart, and I don't ever want to do it as a transactional thing. And we were talking, and I was doing something she'd asked me to do, and all of a sudden it just clicked, and I was like, OMG, I have been doing transactional. I have stopped trusting I'm not doing it from here, because I was subconsciously going to the scarcity part, and I became doing it transactional. And, one of the things that she'd said in the coaching session was like, when there was something that had happened and it cost me money, and there was a relationship part to it too. And what she had me realize, and it was similar, was kind of like, what was my part in it? How did I play in it? To basically, not saying I was at fault too, or the other person wasn't at fault, but how can I become an even better person and make sure that how I'm coaching, I'm coming from that place of where I want to be coming from. And like you're talking about this, so you end up with this much bigger growth than you ever could have imagined. And I'm here to tell you, a lot of times that actually is what's going to catapult you to having more revenue, is because you're having inner growth along with it. And that's one of the things I've been seeing. And I was telling her, I was like, I'm seeing these shifts. And she goes, that's what needed to happen, right? Now that you've seen them, now all these other things that you've been wanting are going to come, because you're seeing these shifts and you're making these shifts. And it's just, you're having these aha moments, and they just start, okay. And I just had another one, and I just, like, they've started coming back to back. It's like just one, but now they're just, and it's all similar, but they're just all these, just a huge aha moment, right? And I think that that's really important, like you're saying. I know you're going to have we're going to have your free offer. The link will be put in the show notes. You, my lady, I know it's late over there where you're at. Thank you so much for coming on and being a guest on my show. And for my sassy listener, what I'm inviting you to take from this is, one, knowing it's not an overnight process. And I invite you to learn to just take a moment and check in with yourself, and realize, okay, where is that feeling coming from? Like Lisa was talking about that, use that as your, what was the word you used?
Your barometer.
Kind of like your gauge. Your barometer. That's right. Your barometer, your gauge. And just check in with yourself and start from there. And don't be afraid to ask for help, especially with being entrepreneurs. Having coaches is just so huge. Whether that's a business coach, a mindset coach, a money mindset coach, wealth coach, CFO like me. That's what Lisa and I do, and all the other coaches do. I mean, and it's talking to us. We're coaches, and we have coaches. And it's just, that's how we are able to get out of the thick of things a lot quicker and be able to see the possibilities, is having those coaches. And so I just invite you to really just sink in and start having a better relationship with yourself and tuning into yourself, so that you can have that much better relationship with your money. So until next time, stay sassy, my friend. Bye. Thanks for joining us this week on Cash and Sass. Check us out on social media and on our website at www.thesassywealthcoach.com, where you can download my free Money Story Start Guide. The website again is www.thesassywealthcoach.com. And as always, subscribe to the show to catch every new episode, and leave us a review so we can continue to bring you fresh content. And remember, yes, it is possible to have sassy and sexy money. See you next week.